as the youth coddles each other, and love appears to be in the air. Breeze singing and trees living, a time of generations dying. The sea is full, yet so many are falling, many born to die in neglect with their unaging intellect. To ages to be forgotten, the world is promised to the young. I will travel to eternity where age cannot go. I shall transcend this life so bold. How age makes a man invisible. He wanders alone, tattered as his clothes. Forgotten soul finds song in his heart. Monuments of magnificent, the seas have taken me to Byzantium. To ages to be forgotten, the world is promised to the young. I will travel to eternity where age cannot go. I shall transcend this life so bold. Sages standing in holy fire, spiraling as the masters of my soul sing. Desire overwhelming, don't deny but consume my heart. I know not what it is, but take me to eternity and unknown things. To ages to be forgotten, the world is promised to the young. I will travel to eternity where age cannot go, and I shall transcend this life so bold. Once free from this body, I'll never come back again. Not to this place I'll be where goldsmiths work. To entertain the lords and ladies of Byzantium, it matters not what is the past, or what is passing, or is to come. To ages to be forgotten, the world is promised to the young. I will travel to eternity where age cannot go, and I shall transcend this life so bold.
All right, folks. Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host, Josh Turner. This is PRT. Join us in the real reality. Starting a little sooner than usual. Usually we wait until we get about, 100, 200 people in here. But I got things to do. I got to be doing some stuff tonight. God. How is everybody tonight? I don't hear anybody saying, nobody's going to tell me how they're doing tonight.
No one's going to respond. That's a little
Yeah,
rude,
it's
guys.
rude, isn't it? These people are just absolutely rude. Tell them,
Just
Tony.
sitting here? How dare y'all?
Just sitting here, just being freeloaders, dude. Absolute freeloading over here.
Can't believe it.
Well, at least Randy says doing good, but I still can't hear anybody. Oh, it's because you're not. Okay.
That's an excuse.
Yeah. How did everybody like the random files last night? I don't know if everybody was feeling it or what. I got a lot of good feedback. A lot of people said that they enjoyed it. They enjoyed the Random Files last night. We talked about some stuff. We talked about Joe Kent, and I showed his resignation letter, and we got into who he was, who he is, and why he feels the way he does. And I mean, this guy was not some dude that just came out of left field, literally left, field. No, he was hardcore, and then he just said, "Hey, I don't feel it." You can't. It's really hard. It's one of those things where you just, I don't know. You just, things go the way they go. Things happen the way they happen. Things, they are what they are. I thank everybody for the hopes and prayers and thoughts and everything, especially your prayers. For everybody that I had a meeting today with some people about the business, and I think it went well, and I think they're good people. I think I can work with these guys, and I didn't get that same feeling the last time when we were doing this with the last group of people. It felt off. It was like there were two partners, and one of them was good, and the other one I did not have a feeling. Yeah, I just couldn't trust it, man. But these guys seem to be
Above board.
They're Christian, they're on the level. I have a good feeling about it, and I think God is looking out for us. So at least there's that. I mean, that gives you a starting point, And it's a stressful business. It's a stressful thing, period, to be running a business and trying to find good people. I've had a good partner for almost 19 years. And so it's hard, when you have to move and change and do things, and you're used to things being a certain way over almost 2 decades. But, I say this with all due respect to anybody out there who's doing a business and trying to go it alone. If you got people around you to help you, it's much smoother, much easier. You just got to find people that you can trust to work with and let God guide you. And if you get into these spaces, where you start thinking for yourself, like, I'm just going to do what and you don't give it over to God. And that's when bad things happen. I'm telling you, man. I'm speaking from experience, man. I'm just telling you, man, you have to give it to Christ. There is no other way. I mean, Tiger uppercut. What are you talking about? Cesar Chavez thing in our local news. There's been a couple things like, which one are you talking about? The name change? Is that what you're talking about? Or what are you talking about? And you're talking about Cesar Chavez, the political activist. A lot of people don't realize, like, he was very socialist. He was also racist. It always shocks me how people pick and choose history. They want to cherry pick it apart and say, "Oh, this is how the world is." Blah blah blah. Yeah, that's how it's really how people, they have a preconceived notion of how the world is. So then they run around finding things that will make it fit to what they want to believe, so they can be comfortable. People do that with religion too, man. They'll run around and find a religion that fits them, rather than just saying, "Hey, I need to submit to the will of God." Just the truth. People get upset. They don't like it when you say that, but it's the truth.
Oh, this religion says I can't do bad things. I don't know if this is working out for me.
Eric Cole says, I sprang the day. What do you mean? I just spent the day working a background for the Lowdown season 2. So what is that? What were you doing? Sounds interesting.
Thank you, Sean, for that donation.
Well, of course he did, Pachuro. I mean, why wouldn't he? Kent just got in trouble for leaking classified documents. Amazing he gets in trouble the day after he resigns, right? They have to discredit him, dude. They have to discredit the guy. The guy literally, his wife was killed working for the government, our United States government in Syria. And of course he's been accused of that. I mean, you got to wake up, man. If you think, oh, that's what it is, he was a bad guy, that's why he did it. Come on, man. Dude, these people, they're rough, man. They're rough, dude. As soon as you piss them off and, go against the whatever.
Also,
Where the heck is Benjamin Netanyahu? You tell me, Roderick. And Roderick, I know who you are. I mean, I know you've been very critical of me. Um, I'm not your enemy. I know you're a real, whatever, you believe the way you believe, but I don't agree. I do not agree, dude. I don't think that these things are the way that they say they are. But yeah, I'm not going to get into it on the show here. I mean, it's your right to criticize me, but it's my right to defend myself too. And you have a very good question. Where is he? Hmm. Let me ask you this, Roger. Where do you think he is? Where do you think he is? And Kyle says they are gray to black on the spectrum. You telling me, man? There's hardly any. There's like no good. It's just shades of gray and darkness. You have the left, who I don't agree with at all, really, very little. And then you have the right, the split. You know what I call that? I call that separating the wheat from the chaff. That's what I call that. The tares are being taken out. We don't need those tares. That's what I think. And I look at this world for what it is. We know that this world is an evil world that has been designed to manipulate and lie and control us. Tonight's encounter involves a lot of that. This is a rare one. I don't get a lot of stories about Bigfoot and Dogman clashing. This was witnessed in DeSoto National Forest. There's a national park there where these people were camping, and these people saw some crazy stuff. Well, Roger, if he's in a hideout, why is he not out there showing himself to the media to say, hey, I'm alive and well, and to give his people hope, right? But the truth is, a lot of his people didn't like him, and they didn't like, and there are many that are dissenting. There have actually been riots there, and they're not showing what's happening over there in Israel because they were getting ready to protest and march in the streets when October 7th happened. Right? I mean, people don't even they don't know that. They don't realize that. And then what happened? Charlie Kirk talked about October 7th, and he said, hey, 45-minute helicopter ride, but yet there were, Hamas was killing people for, hours before they went and did something. That's because they needed that to happen. Roger says it wouldn't be smart. Iran is relentless. Whatever. You think Iran some amazing thing? You know what? Iran would be amazing things if they tried to invade it. That's going to be a problem. It's 3 times the size of Afghanistan, and it's just as mountainous. Yeah, there'll be some problems. Yeah, for sure. But I don't think that they're going to be able to take him out. He could literally just do a hello, I'm still here, I'm alive from anywhere, from a bunker, from Germany. He was supposedly he was in Germany. Why don't he just say it? Hey, I'm here. I'm fine. I'm in an underground base in Germany. Do you think Iran's going to be able to hit Germany? See, dude, that's the problem with the media. They lie so much. People actually believe that they could hit us. No, that's it's all a bunch of that just pooey lying. But we're not going to talk anymore about that right now because this is the Paranormal Roundtable. That is a discussion that we can do on another channel called Random Files or the Real Random Files. The videos that are on YouTube right now are only going to be there for a limited time because they are pretty intense and deep, and they're going to be moved in about a week to the Real Random Files on Rumble. And then We're going to be doing some shows. Was going to do one tomorrow, and then I wasn't going to do one tomorrow, but I think I will tomorrow afternoon, or maybe after tomorrow night after we do the live stream. Because remember, tomorrow is the members only. Tomorrow will be the members only live stream. So tomorrow we're going to be, yeah. So yeah, TRF, the random files. Yeah, Sean Hartel says, love the random files. Yeah, a lot of people are really enjoying that because I'm breaking it down. Don't know how much the powers that be are going to enjoy it. I don't think they really like me. Some people tried to repost it on Twitter, well, X, and different platforms, and they got in trouble. Like immediately, they took it off. But y'all can try it. Let's see if you guys can take those random file episodes and post them in different places and see what happens. See what the reaction is. See if you're getting anything, because that was just a couple people who've told me. One person said it, and then the person backed it up. So that's like 2 people. I mean, you tell me. The Crusaders, or are we the randos? The random files are the randos. My wife came up with that, like Crusaders, because you're on a crusade for the truth. You're on a crusade for, you're on a crusade for Christ. You believe, you know what's going on. You can't just take these things at face value, these things that these people are doing and saying, because it's all. Daisy May has a good point. 220 people in here watching. We only got 76 likes. I need you guys to go out and like and subscribe, please, to build the algorithms. We're starting to lose our sub count again, being shadow banned and everything else. And we have a lot of people being unsubscribed to all of our channels. We don't want that. Yes, it will be, Tiger. The real random files is going to be hard in the paint. We're going to go hard. We're going to say what we have to say, uncensored. It's Rumble. That's what Rumble was built for. I was talking to a colleague the other day, and he was talking. I'm fixing to be on his show, and I'll let you know when that comes out. But he thinks that eventually a lot of people are going to leave YouTube because of the censorship problems, and that Rumble will be the way of the future. And if not, I'm thinking not necessarily just for Rumble, but another platform like Rumble. And there'll be more that will copy that. They're going to copy that. That's what do you call it? The style, not the template. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Tony. They're going to copy that template, and they're going to start going out, and they're going to be doing the same thing. They're going to be like, hey, people are upset because they can't get the real truth, and all the censorship is a problem. So people are going to start going out, and they're going to create more of these platforms.
Thank you for that donation, Cajun May.
Thank you for the donation. We appreciate that. We could definitely use it. We're not in a good spot right now financially. But that's not your problem. If you're hurting, don't do it. And if you have fixed income or money problems, don't worry about it. Don't do it. We're just trying to stay afloat here, trying to stay alive. And I got this today. Somebody gave me this, really cool. See what it says? Well, you can't hardly see it, but it says, Jesus loves me. That's the thing that seems to be a problem with these people. Why do they hate Jesus so bad? It's like they just can't handle, like there's like it's some kind of illness or something. So the people in tonight's show, if you go back to the episode that we not the one we just did yesterday with Chris Kramer, that would have been a Patreon episode, but we ended up just doing it on the on the channel or whatever. And Tuesday night is typically reserved for Patreon, and we will go back to Patreon this coming Tuesday when we do Bigfoot and the Nature of Reality in all 50 states, and it's Alabama on Patreon. So that is not YouTube or Spotify or any of these other platforms we're on. That is strictly that's just made for Patreon. So go to Patreon. It's $10, $20, $30, $40, $50 tier. You won't be disappointed. You get a swag crate. You get merchandise, whatever. And you get more depending on which tier you're on. Everybody, I think, already kind of knows that. And so if you go to Patreon, it's the only way to get my autographed books too. You can get my books on Amazon, but you can get them autographed on there. So if I were you, I would go and join the Patreon. Next Tuesday night, we're going to be talking about Bigfoot and the nature of reality, and it's going to be Alabama. So last Tuesday, okay, not yesterday, but the Tuesday before, we talked about Bigfoot in Mississippi, and we did talk about the DeSoto National Forest. This is where a story came across my desk about Bigfoot and Dogman clashing. So I got to set the stage for that. It didn't just like, oh, they look up on a trail and these two are just punching each other. That's not how it happened. But they are spotted in the same area. Their habitats and seem to overlap. And you know me personally, there's this big uproar about the Patterson Gimlin film being, and I could really care less, because here at PRT, if you know, I don't care about that. We get lots of reports, just like a lot of our colleagues do, about Bigfoot and Dogman and whatever. And I don't think that these things are completely physical. I think that these things are something in between. I've never believed in the Patty film. I really have a hard time believing how people, and they're like, why did it have boobs? Because Patterson was smart. Patterson was a smart guy. He was a carny. He exploited things. He was a gimmicky dude. I mean, like, he wanted to make money, and I think I think he hoaxed. Now that doesn't mean that Gimlin was in on it. I think Bob may have been taken too. Who knows? I mean, he could have been taken for a ride. But I think Patterson created the suit, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's almost impossible to create." No, it's. I don't know where they're getting this. I don't know who. And if you're one of those people that believes that and you think that, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to offend you, but why would you think that back in the mid to late '60s, that it was so hard to make a suit? It looks just like any of those other, it just looks fake. I mean, as a kid, I was looking at that going like, yeah, maybe. I saw it like In Search of or whatever with what's his name, Leonard Nimoy, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. Even as a kid, I wasn't really into Bigfoot or anything like that, but I don't really think that it's. I don't know. It just doesn't. It doesn't look real to me. It never has. He doesn't have a butt crack.
It doesn't compute.
It looks like it's in different pieces too. And everybody's just like, yeah, man, that's the holy grail. And I'm like, what? So a lot of my Aper friends are just really hurt that this is coming out, and they feel like they have to defend it. And me, I'm just over here like watching all this, going like, I believe 100% that Bigfoot is real. 100%.
Believe that is real.
I just don't believe that's real. I don't think you can video them the way that people think that you can.
And here's the thing: if that was the case, then why has there been no other video like it? I mean,
yeah,
it's been long enough now.
Well, there have been a couple others. One of the films that nobody seems to talk much about is the one from Louisiana, and she was on our show, the Honey Island Swamp Monster. And I believe it was what is it called? 30, what's it, the millimeter? What's it called? Let me look it up real quick. There's a little bit of footage on that looks kind of real to me.
$35 millimeter?
35, is that what it's called? Here's a weird thing. If you type in Honey Island Swamp, well, look at what you get. You get a freaking werewolf. Weird thing. You keep digging and then you'll find Bigfoot, but I don't know. I don't have a dog in that fight because I don't care. I don't believe it. I mean, I believe that it's fake. And there's people who I'm really very close with, and they believe it's real. I just don't trust Patterson. His son just said, he was like, "Nah, dude," and they're like, "Oh, it's because his son hated him. That's why his son." Like, I don't know if his son hated him, loved him. It doesn't matter to me. The bottom line is, I don't think it's real. I mean, I think Bigfoot is real, 100%. There have been way too many accounts of these things, like thousands and thousands and thousands of reports from every country. I have now fielded reports from 42 different countries. Now, that I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and tell you that I just sat back and they all just flowed in through my messenger or through Instagram or you know my email, because that's not true. I hustled those reports down. And at least 20 of those countries, I was actively looking for reports from those particular places. So take 20 of those, a little more than that, but let's say, so about half, 20 of them though came to us. And then again, a lot of them were in different groups and things like that, but 42 different countries, 42 different countries, a bunch of European countries, a bunch of Asian countries, African countries. Now, I got to say this: there were 4 African countries, and people were like, "Well, those particular countries have chimps, and 2 of them for sure have gorillas." What if it was that? And I say this: how many gorillas and chimps can walk upright without being hunched over for a long time? And when you go over the reports, there almost every country on earth has had a Bigfoot. I think it's interesting that the BFRO doesn't have any from Hawaii when I myself have fielded 2. Only 2. One could have been a mistaken identity, and it could have been a Dogman. But the other one was definitely ape-like, but the arms were extremely long. And get this, it came from a waiter from a restaurant here in Austin, and we were all there eating, and the guy told us the story. Right there at our table in Hawaii. So there are stories like that. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we had a guest that had come on and we did a 2 or 3 part show about Hawaii. And he talked about there being a precedent for these giants, which, we know that they existed. But what happened in the DeSoto National Forest? The people that this happened to were Blake and Britt. Blake is the guy that gave me the story. We don't say his name on there, like we referenced, somebody on there on the Patreon when we did the Mississippi, and I said these people have a story. He didn't want his real name out there, and then he told me he didn't care. It doesn't matter. I mean, we're not giving his last name or where he lives. He doesn't even live in Mississippi anymore. But Blake is a former military. I mean, he's not some goofy nobody guy. Like he's not looking for fame or anything. He actually asked to be anonymous, at first anyway, and then he didn't really care. And I want to know what you guys think about this, because here's what happened. Brittany, his girlfriend, she goes by Britt. She didn't know what she was hearing when her and her friends went out and they went camping. Now, here's the funny thing about it, and I'm not picking on you ladies, but her and her friends wanted to show her husband, who's now her husband. At the time, he wasn't her husband. Blake wasn't, they weren't married. And she's like, me and my friends are going camping. And they went camping for her bachelorette party. Haha, that sounds like a lot of fun until you're out in the middle of a humongous forest and it's just you and 7 other women, not a man in sight. Because you don't need no man until Bigfoot shows up. But I got to say, some of the men nowadays would probably be just as scared as they'd be like, ah, ah. They'd be screaming like Damon, like what's his name, Marlon Wayans, when he was getting attacked by the demonic woman in the bus. Was it a scary movie?
I think so.
Yeah. Oh no, you ain't going nowhere. He gets attacked by Michelle Obama. What's crazy though is like these people, they think, oh, you know what? I'm gonna go out into the woods and I'm gonna camp. really and truly, she says, me and my girls, we were glamping. We had 2 big RVs. It wasn't like we were out there and, we went pretty far in. We wanted to be like, independent. And to her credit, she admitted, she was like, we're out there glamping. We're like, but she's like, I wanted to show Blake that I could be outdoorsy. Yeah.
Comfortably outdoorsy.
Yeah. Blake was like, he's been outdoorsy. He's been to Fort Leonard Wood. I think it's pretty he's been pretty outdoorsy in his life. So, this guy, he's a Mississippi native originally. He said, now this is what he said. He says, she went to LSU. Yeah, I told him, I said, come on, man, don't, as they call it, Death Valley, right? The football team is like, it's hard to win at LSU. But she's like, when I talked to her, she's like, well, he went to Mississippi, Ole Miss, that's why he's jealous. He don't like LSU, because I went to LSU. So I guess they met online, and she was living in, or he was living in Louisiana working. And so then they started dating, and then when they moved back to Mississippi. They were going to live in Mississippi, right? And so him and his guys, they did the standard, I'm going to go out and get drunk until I throw up in Jackson, right? They're just like, oh, we're just going to go and bar crawl. That's what we're going to do. And what are you going to do? Well, me and my girls are going to take machetes, and we are going to hack our way through the jungles of the DeSoto National Forest and maybe get Lyme disease if we're lucky. Look at me. Look at me. I'm the outdoorsman now.
All that means is they're going to tape a machete to the front of their RV and just drive into the forest.
Yeah, they're going to drive right to the edge of the woods. One of them walks up and goes, oh, there's all this leaves and stuff getting everywhere.
I did it, girls. I got a leaf.
Nicole, bring the leaf blower. Let's clear this area out over here so we can walk through it. So she said that they were having a great time. She said, so one of her friends plays guitar, and she actually has, I don't know what her name is, but I guess she actually plays guitar on like YouTube and stuff. So she's over there and she's like playing her guitar and, and so they're all singing and having a good time and roasting marshmallows and s'mores and whatever. She says, we got there early Friday. Everybody took off Friday from work, and they took off. We were going to come back Monday afternoon. She said, everybody took off. It was great. My best friends that I ever grew up with. And then one of my cousins and my sister, she said, and 5 other good friends, her 5 best friends in the world. We went camping. And we showed our boyfriends. We're like, and took a ton of pictures. This was 2018. She's like, we took photos of ourselves everywhere. Look at us out here roughing it.
This is a tree.
Yeah.
I've never seen this before.
They did actually manage to start a small fire too, and it almost got out of control due to some bacon grease. But they did actually they managed to put it out. They put it out. No harm, no foul. But I don't know if it was the bacon grease or maybe it was the singing and the dancing and the drunken revelry or whatever. But on Saturday evening, after they had gone fishing, and only 2 of them knew how to actually do that, and they managed to catch a couple things. Good for them. They went down to the creek. They caught some fish. But then they hear, what is that? What in the hell is that? And then about midnight, a little bit after midnight that night, which would have been technically Sunday morning, Saturday night, whatever, they hear whoop, whoop, right? Whoop, whoop. Can't even do it correctly. Something like that, but a lot deeper and a lot more guttural and a lot more terrifying. And they were like, what is that? And one of their friends, her friend Erica, who has been an outdoorsy type person for a long, long time, she said it was like we had one on one end of the spectrum. We had Erica. And on the other end of the spectrum, we had Angel. And she was like, not a camper. And after a few things that happened, she was not a happy camper at all. For instance, that night when everybody was there, Angel was like, I know what that is. And they said, what is it? She said, that's a woodpecker. And they're like, smacking the trees like that? Because that sounds like, so their other friend decided to just, and I don't know her name. I didn't get it, but Erica's sister, they were fraternal twins. She comes up. She's not quite as outdoorsy as Erica, but she's like, that's Bigfoot. Just point blank says it. And guess what? Panic ensued. They started packing up, and one of them that was one of their dad's RVs. They said, "No, we're leaving. We're gonna go. This isn't a good thing." So Britt's now like, "Hey, this is my bachelorette party." Most women go and they get like the dinglings that they put in their hair, and they go and they put them on drinks, and they drink out and they do all kinds of phallic stuff. And I used to see them all the time downtown, staggering around drunk and. These girls decided to do something different, and I applaud them for that. But as soon as they hear some knocking, some wood knocks, we know what that is. It's wood knocks. In fact, David Wedley, a good friend of mine, wrote the book Wood Knocks. Right? Isn't that what he calls it?
Yeah.
The things get a little weird. They get a little weird, and then they hear the whoop, whoop, whoop. Right? That's when Erica's sister comes up. I don't know her name, but she came up and she was like, that's Bigfoot. One of the girls is like, how do you know? Like, how do you know that's Bigfoot? She's like, because I've been out in these woods before. And when I was 9 years old, I came out camping with my dad. The weird thing is that Erica don't remember it because they were in the back of a truck camping. And she wakes up and she sees a Bigfoot staring at her, looking her dead in her face. And she said, we stared at each other for several minutes and my eyes were adjusting to it. And when it started to move by the light of the moon, I saw the eyes shine and I saw the head. She's like, it was a Bigfoot, a very big Bigfoot. She's like, I woke my sister up. She woke up scratching herself like she always did. This is what she said. She thought it was funny. And when Britt told me the story, actually, it was her husband that was like, hey, Blake was like, tell a story about the. So she says, she wakes up scratching herself like she has bed bugs. And she looks right at it, scratching herself, and says, go back to sleep. Then when this thing pushes the truck, their parents are asleep in the tent. Their little brother is on the far side on the other side of them. And they were like 9 years old or 10 years old, something like that. They were 9. I guess the little brother is like 8 or something like that. So he's like a year younger than them. But she says, we were 9 years old. He was 8, just turning 8, whatever. And he wakes up and then he looks and he sees this thing walking away and he just screams at the top of his lungs. But mom and dad don't wake up. They don't come. And then they get him to stop screaming. Now, Erica wakes up, gets angry, smacks the kid. What are big sisters for, right? Slaps the kid. Shut up. Why are you screaming? She's like, I just saw a monster out there. Her sister is like, he's right. I was looking right at it. They spend the rest of the night absolutely horrified. And then morning comes and the dad's like, oh, great. I had a wonderful, let's go hiking. Erica's like, sure, Dad. The other 2 kids are like, it was the devil. I don't know what's wrong with you. Come on, Erica.
It's that damn ADHD.
So this is how she became pioneer woman and her sister did not. Because she said for 10 years, I wouldn't go back out into the woods. Believe me, I understand this. Then she goes and she starts camping again when she meets this guy she thought was the cat's meow. And she was like, I was 19 and I had to talk to my sister and learn how to do a few things so I could pretend like, because women will do that. You think men are the only ones that try to con women and be like, yeah, I know all about that. Yeah, my mother used to look at Avon I know I love Avon. It's so good.
Nah, man, they don't lie.
And then they're like, "What is your favorite scent from them?" It's more like which one isn't my favorite scent because I love them all. And the girl's like, I don't really like most of them. Yeah, me neither. Like, I just like the main ones. And then you wait for them to say something and then you follow it up with more bullshit. Because, excuse my language, but that's what women do. They know when you're lying too. Don't think they don't. They have already made up their mind whether
They'll
they
let
like you or
you
not.
continue in that
You
lie.
come out into the deep water with them, they're like a siren. They're like this, Dave Chappelle when he's like,
Yeah.
I'm Rick James.
Like you'll be spinning a tail, and they'll just sit there looking at you like this the whole time, knowing damn well you're lying. And they'll just let you go.
Yeah. And men will lie hopelessly about anything. When it comes to women, they will. They'd be like, oh, tomorrow's laundry day. I hate doing laundry. I know, me too. She's like, except for when I go on like Tuesdays and Wednesdays, because then they have like, whatever. Oh yeah, yeah. Except for those days. Those are the days I love doing laundry too. It's so good. You're just full of crap, right? But women will do it too. You'll talk to a woman and they'll be like, "Oh, really? Oh, Mothman is so interesting. Like, I love all of his new stuff."
It's my favorite band.
Mothman? You talking about the cryptid? Yeah, that one. He is so cool. What do you think of Bigfoot? The new one or the old one? I mean, there's differences. Okay. This is what they do. So she goes and she falls into that trap, right? She goes and she tells her sister, I met this guy. He likes to go camping. I don't. What do I do? She goes, well, and this is what Erica said. Don't tell him you're into Bigfoot, that you're terrified of Bigfoot because it's not real. And she's like, Erica, just because you laid there scratching your fleas off of you, and whatever the little brother's name is, I don't know his name, saw this creature, you choose to not believe that is on you. But I am fully convinced that Bigfoot will eat me. And she says, well, I'm not. That's why I go camping with Dad. And he says that I'm his favorite kid. And they have another smaller kid, too, that was asleep in the car with them. So the two little brothers and you are not it. I am Mom and Dad's favorite because they like to camp and I do, too. And y'all are terrified of Bigfoot. And you scared the other little one so bad he doesn't like to go out into the woods. But unfortunately, they lived out in the country, right? So here's what happens. She says, that's a Bigfoot. And Erica's like, oh, geez, sitting there. She's like messing with something with a hatchet. And she's like, my sister just throws it into the ground right by my feet. This is what she told. This is the story she was telling, right? And she says, according to Britt and Blake, she was like, yeah, well, we're going to have a problem because that is a Bigfoot, and I've done a ton of research on it, and she is a Bigfooter. She really does believe in Bigfoot. She has a story to give me that happened at their property. There again, why did she see it later on? Because I believe that once you're on that wavelength, there's a vibration there, and they pick up on it, and you start to be able to see these things. So she throws the hatchet, and by Britt's words, it went in between her sister's legs, and she goes, here we go with this Bigfoot crap again. But she said it a little meaner. She says, while she's trying to give her speech to these women about how they're being stupid, sissy ninnies and running and getting inside of an RV, she's like, there's nothing to be afraid of. They hear a roar coming from the woods. At that point, people were like, oh, hell no. And one girl in particular, she was black, and she was just like, I don't even want to be out here. I'm not fixing to stick around. Y'all want to figure this out, work it out with whatever that is. I'm out of here. She runs and gets into the RV and starts doing that clappy thing, and then she got a couple other girls get involved. So 3 of them decided, one of them that drives the RV put her foot down, says, it's my RV and I'm not leaving. We will leave. If something happens, I promise you, I'll be the first one turning the keys and get out. These are just these are just sounds from the woods. Stop being afraid. Stop running into the whatever. So half of the girls run into this one RV. 2 of them go into the other RV, and then there's like 2 that are left outside. Right? So there's like 8 people altogether. So her and her friend are outside, and I don't know which one it was, but Brittany said that her and her friend were there, and they were just like, what do you think it is? And Brittany was just like, this is crazy. Like, we were having a great time. This was literally how I wanted to spend my night, and everybody's hiding inside. Then they're opening the door and going, you need to come inside, girl. You're fixing to get eaten by something, whatever that is, blah, blah, blah. Once she started hearing footfall coming from the edge of the woods, because they were like in a clearing in a camp spot, right? Then she freaks out. And she's like, okay, I know that sounded like something bipedal. She's like, I am not a country person. She goes, but I have spent time at my grandparents' farm. And she said that one time when she was a teenager, she thinks something stalked her. She don't know what it was. She didn't see it. But it sounded bipedal. And from the description that her grandmother gave her, she said that sounded like something bipedal. They were thinking maybe a prowler or somebody. So she says, I heard this. It sounded just like what I heard when I was a teenager. I better go inside. So she goes inside. She gets away from the sound of whatever this is. The problem comes when everybody is inside the RV and they hear bang, bang, almost like a real quick knock. But it's not on the door. It's on the other side of the RV. And there's now 4 girls in one RV and 4 girls in the other. And they're kind of like this, shape, they're in the shape of an arrow. And they're like, stop playing. She's like, my friend, she's black. And she was like, y'all better stop playing. I don't like people playing. It's getting mad. Then her other friend is like, Shonda, her other friend's name is Shonda, sorry. Shonda tells her, she's like, you should maybe look outside. She's like, I would, but the devil is literally out there, so I'm not going to do that. How about you look out there? So her friend is like, okay. And Brittany said she literally was like rolling up her sleeves like she's going to do some lifting work or something. She goes over to the window and she looks. She doesn't see anything. There's nothing out here. She's like, we're all afraid for nothing. Brittany's like, something just banged like twice really hard on the side of the RV. There's nothing there. I don't know what's more scary. The fact that you didn't see anything, or if you would have seen something. What are we dealing with? Is this ghosts in the middle of the woods? She says, about an hour goes by and they just start playing cards. And then the other girls come out of their shell and 2 of them come over to our RV and we start drinking and we start playing cards and just having, whatever, talking girl stuff. One of the girls had crashed out in the other RV and the other girl was in there on the phone talking to her boyfriend or whatever. She's like, we had cell reception. It's not like we were like, we were out in the boonies. We couldn't call for help if something happened. But she said what ended up happening was we heard this noise again. Bang, bang. Then we heard screams come from the other RV. Then she's like, okay, so then there's 6 girls in this one RV. Let's all, if we all move together like the Tortuga, like the Roman formation, we keep our shields,
apes together, strong.
Yes. Strong together, yes. Caesar, apes, whatever. So they decide that they're all going to move in this, let's all stick together. We lock arms. The Bigfoot can't eat us all. They go out there and they start to go to the other RV, which is just right there. It's not like they can't, And one girl's like, I'm going to stay behind and just look. I'll make sure that everybody's... Something happens, I'm going to be the one on the phone with the emergency services. And before you ask, no, it wasn't the black girl. She went out with them. She was like, okay, I'm going to go out with y'all. You know how they're always like, we always one's dying in the movie first, right? I don't know. My black friends always say that. We die in the movies first. Why is that? So anyways, they go out there into this turtle formation, right? Remember, there was 6 of them in there. So there's 5 girls, and they're walking across. And the 2 girls in the other RV come busting out of there, running, and they slam into them, and they all fall down. So all it took was 220-pound girls to annihilate their formation. Imagine what a 700-pound creature like a Bigfoot would have done. So they all go falling, and they're freaking out. And one of them in particular, Angel, the one that is absolutely terrified, she was the one that was hiding and whatever. She says, this is what she said to Brittany, or what Brittany told me. I didn't interview this girl, but I interviewed Brittany. And she says, I look and I see legs. While we're all on the ground, I'm getting up. She's like, I'm like pushing myself up off the ground. She's like, I see legs. Big, thick, hairy legs. And tall, too. And I didn't even see the knees. When I finally looked up and I saw knees, and then I saw more legs, and I saw this thing kind of go behind bushes, and I saw humongous feet. She's like, I saw this. We had lights strung up. And you could see it. And it was watching us. And it was large. She screams bloody murder. She goes, there it is. There it is. It's a creature. So all of them run into one RV so they could be a convenient snack for the creature. He just gets into one of them, and he's got them all.
So open up 1 tin can instead of 2.
Yeah. So they says, well, you know what we got to do? The Bigfoot is here. He's amongst us. Let's call the police. Let's call the park rangers. Let's call the local sheriffs. Let's call whoever. Let's call animal control. Let's call the rangers, the National Guard, your local senator. They were calling everybody. They were calling their family members. That we've seen Bigfoot. It was really just one girl that says she saw it at that point, right? But they had all heard the whoop, whoop, whoop. They heard all that. And they heard these roars, these howls and growls. Oh, did I forget to mention that? The night before, they had heard ungodly howling. Sounded like kind of like a wolf. Yeah, failed to mention that part. That's the curveball. So here's what happens. They start freaking the hell out because, and no offense to you ladies, I love you, but you went into hysterics. In my transatlantic accent, calm down, woman. You're in hysterics. Psh, psh, psh. Perfectly acceptable in the 30s and 40s.
That'll fix you up.
That'll fix you. Yeah, see?
Acting crazy now, lady.
Now let's go into this nice diner here where we all sit down in stools and we look at newspapers and ignore one another. And they ask me if I want a sandwich. And I tell them, yes, I want a sandwich. And then they say, would you like cigarette butts on that? And I said, of course I want cigarette butts on that. What am I, a plum Nancy?
Frankly, my dear, you need to shut the hell up.
Frankly, my dear, you're hysterical. I always get Marlboro Lights on my roast beef. Everybody in there smoking. There's always like some lady there with like some kind of shawl. Like all this smoke comes out. She's always got the monocle spike too. It's never like this. Can't have your fingers getting dirty, just your lungs. And she's like, I haven't seen you around here, stranger. And the other woman that's like, excuse me, I'm his wife. I wasn't talking to you, dear. She's like, it's not talking to you, dear. Shut up. What were you saying, dame? Yeah. That's pretty much every movie from the 30s and 40s, except for Gone with the Wind. And even that one had, people getting slapped. I'm kidding, folks. Of course, I don't condone any of that. Those people in the 30s and 40s are out of control. With the transatlantic accents and everything. Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
They didn't even have color back then.
Yeah, everything was in black and white.
I prefer Lucky Strikes.
What's wrong with
it's
them?
Toasted.
It's a bleak world back then. Everything was bad back
And
then.
then they're prejudiced, too, on top of it.
I mean, that's why they didn't have color back then, because they were prejudiced.
Everything
and
was black and
sexist.
white.
Yeah.
You can't be prejudiced. Everything's black and white. You don't know.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? They all go into hysterics. They freak out because this girl says she saw the Bigfoot. So they're scattering into different RVs, and then they get brave and they all run into the one RV. And I asked Brittany, I said, did you have any firepower with you? This is cute. The first thing she said was like fireworks. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Kinda, yeah. Fire that works, yeah, of course I did. Thank you for that donation.
Work someone over.
I was like, how about guns? Did you have pew-pews? And she was like, yeah, we had a flare gun. And then one of my friends, I think, had a gun. I saw a pistol in one of them's handbag. They were like, I have this, but it's not loaded. Then Erica looks at her sister and says, didn't you grab my overnight bag? I got my gun in there. And her sister goes, no. She goes, when you were grabbing yours, I asked you to grab mine. They're roommates at that time, right? She says, you didn't grab mine. She says, no, because I told you could use my shampoo and my conditioner. She's like, yeah, but in my overnight bag was my gun. That is what was in the overnight bag. You did not grab it. She goes, no, I don't do most of the things you do. And of course, they're twins and they're probably not going to do exactly whatever. It's like, well, you're not the boss of me. I just didn't grab it because quite frankly, I didn't want to. Well, quite frankly, we have nothing to defend ourselves now. Well, good thing we have in the other RV a flare gun and we have an unloaded pistol here.
Okay, let's split hairs.
Because Monica decided to bring the pistol without the
bringing up old stuffs in the past.
So then they start looking out the windows. Everybody's looking out the windows. What? What is that? We're hearing noises. Then the thing starts shaking. Then nobody wants to look out. Right? So you're basically in a land submarine with a shark circling it. And at this point, nobody wants to look out. And Brittany says, no, I got to stop laughing at this point because Brittany started almost crying when she was telling me. She said it was a very terrifying night. It was very hardcore. I bet it was. She said, and I said, well, why didn't y'all just drive away in that RV? She said, because the keys are in the other RV. Why? She goes, well, because I left my purse over there. I had been drinking. I have a problem. I admitted it. I went to AA one day and walked in, ate some cookies and left. And after that, I had no more problems. I fixed it like that. Instant gratification. Typical millennial. I fixed my problem. I went in and I said, hey, what's going on in here? They're like, we're all alcoholics. Okay. See ya. Walks out.
Batteries.
That was it. After that, no more drinking after 9 o'clock, see? Did all my drinking before bed. And I'm done for the night. What do they call that when you're trying to edge off of it? What is it? We were watching that movie, Anaconda. And he says, I'm on the, what is it? Reindeer? What do you call it? What is his name? That actor?
Paul Rudd or
no, the other guy, the blonde-haired guy.
The Boston diet.
Yeah, I can't remember now. He was the one that told them, they're like, I thought you were going to quit drinking. He's like, I am. I'm just doing I forgot what he called it, dude. Oh, man. It's
the Boston something or something.
He called it something. Look it up, man. It's hilarious. That movie's funny as hell. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
It's got Jack Black and a couple other people in it. But it's a funny movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not Anaconda, the original with Ice Cube and J-Lo and what's
Steve Zahn.
Steve Zahn. What's Angelina Jolie's dad's name? I forgot his name. Anyway, he's in that movie. So but Steve Zahn, he says he's not drinking. He's kind of, But she started telling me, she's like, well, I don't drink anymore. And I'm like, well, that has nothing to do with the story. Whether that's up to you. That's between you and God. But she said, yeah, I don't drink anymore. No, it's good. She's like, and I said, since when? That night. That night cured me. It definitely did. So then she's like, well, I don't have my purse, and now I gotta, there's lights on and stuff, and I need to turn this thing on. I know, and I got some issues, and I'm thinking things are gonna get worse. And get this, we start making calls. Everybody's calling. John Voight, that's one of them that was in Anaconda. This is a remake where they're kind of like trying to remake the movie.
Yeah.
It's funny. You should check it out. It's a cool idea the way they did it too. It's really thinking outside the box.
I wasn't expecting much of it, but I was pleasantly surprised.
It was funny.
It's a fun movie.
I like Paul Rudd for one reason. Paul Rudd he came on an interview, and even though he's Jewish, he says he likes Jesus. It takes a lot of guts to say that nowadays. But and David Jones says, yeah, Davy Jones, you're right. They will follow you for life, dude. They will. That's another thing that apers don't get. They're like, oh, this person has an experience. Well, what's the odds you have another one, right? It's like lightning, right? No, you'll have another one because you realize the nature of reality, what they really are. And you might be hearing them and not seeing them, but they're around. They like your energy. They're like, I like you. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to kill you last. So this is what happens, right? They're in this RV and it's being shaken back and forth. And Erica's sister, I wish I knew her name, but Erica's sister, she says, this is what happened that night. You kept going back to sleep, sis, and that thing kept shaking the truck. And me and our little brother spent the night in terror while you slept like a baby. And then, and I just thought this was kind of funny, but Brittany was like, then she's like, and I've always hated you. She's like, I'm your twin sister. She's like, and I've always hated you.
I hated the way you look.
And she's like, oh, okay. So just being your twins, that doesn't give me any. She's like, no, you're arrogant. You're loud. You're aggressive. You're bossy. Like I'm supposed to carry your overnight bag. She's like, you were walking out with nothing. I had 2 big bags and you had nothing but your night bag. Why couldn't you grab mine too? Because you're not the boss of me. Meanwhile, while they're arguing, they hear bang. And they look out, and this RV, these are the RVs where you drive. They're not the kind you pull a trailer because, well, I mean, obviously women, no offense to women, but I'm just saying, But anyways, I'm just giving y'all a hard time. So anyway, this RV, it's like they see it rock and go back and forth, but they don't see anything. They don't see the creature that did this. Now, something that pushed it like that, don't you think you'd see it? They all go, what was that? So one of them looks, another one looks, and this thing was rocking back and forth, coming up off of its tires on the left side of the vehicle, the tires, and they were off the ground. And they are freaking out. So they sat there huddled together, and then the cell phones all went out and the electricity went out. And she's like, it's not like we were out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we had neighbors who were probably like a quarter mile up the road. They're like, well, someone needs to get to the neighbors. I volunteer you. That kind of thing. If you get eaten, it was a sacrifice you made for all of us. And they're like, well, we're not going to do that. Why don't we draw straws? Do we have straws? No, we're not. Come on, ladies. There's a bachelorette party. Not one of you's a witch, has a broom. Come on. I'm kidding, obviously.
Knew we should have invited that hippie girl.
Yeah, she would have had the broom for sure. But anyways, what happens is they don't have a broom. They don't have some straws. They don't have anything. What do? Nose hair? I don't know. Who's got the longest one? That would actually work, though. You could do that. You might have to, a little hard time comparing, but nose hairs work. Because guys, not everybody has a beard. So you got to do, so nose hair, universal. Everybody has nose hair. Pluck them, see what happens. But they didn't do that. No, they just decided that they were going to pick numbers. And everybody was so screwed up and backed around and turned around. And nobody knew, no, it's not time for a break. Thank you. Good grief, phone. Like, stop, man. This never happens when I'm doing anything else, only on the show. You're watching Paranormal Roundtable? Take a break, dude. Take a break. Go watch CNN or something. God.
You're getting too close, Mr. Anderson.
Why can't you watch the news? Because I don't want to watch the news. I want to do this. Well, I'm going to keep interrupting. Just letting you know.
Did you want that scene still?
Yeah, what was it? What did he say?
It says, yeah, well, I mean, Buffalo Sober.
Buffalo Sober. That's what it is.
That's just beer and wine and then some of the lighter liquors, but not all of them.
So that's what she was. I'm Buffalo Sober now. I'm only drinking some, and I'm only getting drunk 4 days a week. That's it. That is it. I draw the line at 5 days a week. That's when you know you got a problem. So what ends up happening, right? These ladies are freaking out. Everybody's scared to death. They just saw the other RV get rocked. They're wanting to get out of there, but they can't find the keys. And she said, my keys to this one are in that other one. Because we had gone in there and we were drinking, and now we're in here. Oh, good. That's great. That's awesome. This went on for about 3 hours. Noise, screaming, something slapping the RV. And apparently, maybe not 100%, but the noise probably is what it was, attracted another visitor. And at one point, they looked out the front of the RV and they see something crawling into the woods on all fours, or kind of walking, but down on all fours. And they saw this creature, and it looked like the back of a bear. But they said this had to be the Bigfoot creature because that's kind of what it looked like, the hair and everything. They still hadn't seen the face straight up, you know. But yeah. And about an hour later, everything is calm, and they hear the noise and aggression again. Only this time it sounds different. It doesn't sound like, it wasn't slapping, and it wasn't like, you know, this weird hooping noise that they were hearing from the woods. And they weren't hearing the same thing. This time they were hearing grunts and growls and something that was making a scratching noise on the side of this vehicle, like somebody had nails to a chalkboard, and the metal was being ripped by what sounded like possibly claws or fingernails, and sniffing noises that sounded like something walking around their RV. And these girls, literally at this point, they were terrified. They were holding hands and they were crying. They were crying. And they were praying. And they were freaked out. And so this thing comes, whatever it is, and it comes to their RV, and it decides to start yanking on the door, and they had barricaded it as best they could with the couch. It was in front of the door in case they got in, whatever. They were like, we had laid it up on there. I don't know how that was going to stop anything. She's like, but we started we band together, and Erica was very important in this. She got everybody to stop being afraid. She had to admit to her sister that Bigfoot was real, obviously. And she said, we need to try to scare this thing. So they started slapping it and trying to yell and hoop and holler out the window. And then they saw it standing there, looking at them with yellow eyes. Its mouth was open, revealing a horde of teeth, ungodly looking thing with crazy looking shoulders, and the ears that stood straight up like triangles. This was not Bigfoot. And it got down on all fours, and they saw a distinct tail, very wolf-like, and it ran back over to it didn't run. It just kind of hopped over to the other RV and went inside of it. And everybody was like, what was that? And every one of them that saw it, there were 3 people that saw it, but every one of them in there began to scream and panic. And the word came out of one of their mouths. And Britt was like, yeah, it was my friend Angel. And she said, werewolf. One of the girls that had actually seen the face of the other creature, and they didn't know this until this point, her name was Trina. And Trina says, that was not what I saw earlier. She's like, I saw the creature earlier, and it looked kind of human, but with a lot of hair. What in the hell is that thing? Jokingly, Erica's sister's like, maybe it's Bigfoot's pet. But then again, Bigfoot doesn't exist, right? And her sister's like, okay, you got me. She goes, at that point, she goes, everybody was kind of like, hey, you know what? Let's not even snip at each other because this could be our last night on Earth. The cell phones aren't working. There's no electricity. And Brittany asked me this. She's like, I don't know much about this. Why did that happen? And I said, because they're demonic. And they drained batteries, and all of your phone's batteries were dead, weren't they? And she says, yes. I said, let me guess. The RV, the battery was dead too, right? She says, how did you know that? I said, I know that. You said that you left your keys in the other RV, but that's not what happened, is it? She says, no, kind of sheepishly. And Blake's like, what? Yeah, he told me that's what happened. She's like, I didn't want to panic the other girls, but I tried starting it. And she told me sheepishly, it was dead. I didn't want them to know. And I discouraged anybody from trying to make a run to the other RV because I said, those creatures are out there. Who knows what could happen, blah, blah, blah. I commend your efforts, but the bottom line is this. These people that believe that these things are purely flesh and blood are going to get someone hurt out there one day because it's nonsense. How many accounts do we have now of people's cell phones going dead in their presence? This is real. These are real problems, and these are real entities that do real bad things. And we pretend like we know what they are. Now, we talked about this on Monday, if you haven't listened to the show, and we talked about this last night on the live stream, which was typically it's a Patreon, but last night we had our guest, Chris Kramer, come on and talk about the Mogollon Monster, something that he has actually seen and studied and whatever. Mogollon Monster, I guess, Mogollon, whatever. I told him I was never going to be able to pronounce it correctly. I stand by that. Yeah, stand by that, see? Not something I'm proud of, Chris, but I stand by it. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it loud. Okay? These things are literally demonic. And I don't mean they are archons, fallen angels. No. I believe they are the offspring of the offspring of the offspring. You know what that is? That's the Eliud. Read the book of Jubilees. I tell people that you should do your research, you study and learn. Jesus says we die for lack of knowledge. You don't know what these things are. Instead, they're looking for, is the Patterson Gimlin film a hoax? Is the Bigfoot real? Is it bizarre? Well, like drinking the Jello pudding pops. These people literally act like they've been roofied by the cops. I don't know what's going on. I think we just need to. I don't care. I don't care. One of my colleagues posted something today. I mean, I'll say his name, Joe from Hellbent. He says, he's like, doesn't matter. I'm moving on. We talked about it yesterday. It's done. Who cares? Because for me in my house, I know, right? Like I says, me in my house, I will serve the Lord. And I know what it says in these scriptures, and I know what they are. These things, I believe, and this is my opinion, and you can, say everybody's got one, right? But it's the Eliud. Do you know what that is? Because we're too busy using these terms like Nephilim that just go and it's a catch-all, right? That's what was said last night. We were talking about Chris Kramer. Yes, and if you watch Paranormal Roundtable every day, you'll learn something. But if that's what they are, then they are descended from living beings and angelic beings, flesh beings, and then spiritual living beings. And it doesn't matter which lineage or what third, fourth generation, whatever, they exist. That's why those lights went out. That is why the thing didn't start. And that's why I knew that Brittany it's harsh to say she was lying, but that's what she was doing. But I think she was trying to save face. And I said, look, for me to tell the story, you got to tell me the whole truth, nothing but the truth. It's got to happen.
Can't handle the truth.
But she was shocked that I knew this. I said, look, I've interviewed hundreds of people. I know what this is, and I know what they did. And then at this point, she's like, can you give me a minute? And she started crying. I started talking to Blake. Blake had his own experience with one of these things after this. When these creatures left the vicinity, they watched this thing jump out very quickly and was gone. About an hour goes by, which was about an hour before daybreak. This is spring, and it was almost done. Here Day Dylan says, "Hi PRT fam. I'm at the gym. Wolf playing on headphones. Yeah, I'll be at the gym later. I'll be playing my show too. I just listen to myself. Oh, that guy's pretty smart. Well, it's a good thing I'm him. I'm joking. I don't do that. That's weird. The hell would do that? Me. Love me some me. You know how narcissistic I am. Just kidding. No, I do critique myself though. But here's the thing. They hear about an hour before daybreak, right? They hear this loud clash, like just a boom comes from the woods, and they hear this clack and it's like trees breaking, things are snapping. And at this point, she says, "Well, we heard all this noise, and we were almost about to go and try to make a run for the other RV and see if we could find the keys." And I was like, I was going to have to try to play it off, and be like, "Oh, we found them," and run back because I had told a lie, and I was. So all this stuff was going on, and she goes, and then we hear this loud thundering noise, and we hear snarling and growling and howling and whooping and just ungodly noise. She's like, and Erica, she was the one. She comes out of the RV and she says, "I'm going to look and see what this is." She shines a flashlight, and right there, just beyond the clearing and a group of trees, there are two monsters, and they are locked in what appears to be Mortal Kombat. And they were going at it. She's like, and she says, I could see the one with the tall ears was moving and biting, and it was throwing this big ape-like creature back. And then the ape-like creature was smacking it with what looked like a log, but it wasn't doing anything neither one of them were really giving up any ground or doing anything. She said it was very brief from what I saw, and then they just parted ways, and they went on all fours one way, and one went all fours the other way, and they were done. So I guess you can say it was a draw, and I'm sorry that it wasn't some climactic clash, but we don't get a lot of these. I think they tend to stay the hell away from each other because they're going to hurt each other, or they're not. I mean, who knows? But that is what she said. No one else witnessed that, but they heard it. And this woman is brave because in daytime, she and one other girl, I don't know what her name was, but they walked down to the next neighbors down there, and they were like, she's like, our phones are dead. And, at this point they realized the RVs were dead. And, yeah. And though the neighbors down there, they were like, we heard noise like this, just crazy. We thought maybe it was coyotes fighting or wolves. We didn't know what it was. We just stayed in our RV and was like, I don't know what that is. She's like, one of them did say that she tried to call the ranger station, but her phone died. And another one said, with her hands on her hips, kind of looking confused. She's like, I heard something last night when I got up to use the restroom. And it sounded like something might have been going around our RV. So they walked around her RV and they found one sort of a half a footprint. And they found two footprints, only two, that looked like paw prints. And they looked like they were overlaid on top of human prints. Weird, right? At their RV. That would be Brittany's RV. So they snapped some photos, and they don't look like much. I can't really make it out. It just looks like like maybe it's a footprint, but maybe this Dogman decided to step over the Bigfoot prints, and maybe it was marking its territory. I don't know what it was doing. The Bigfoot made enough noise to attract the attention of another entity. And then they clashed, and then it ended. We don't really know what happened, and there's no way to know. There's no way to know at all, because one of these creatures could have been mortally wounded for all we know, and then it went off into the woods and died. We don't know. Or the flesh did. But all we do know for sure is that this is what they told us. This is what they said happened. If it was me, I would guess that anytime you're out in the woods or in anywhere really, and you're vulnerable, I wouldn't recommend screaming, yelling, and acting like a pack of rabbits, because a wounded rabbit will not only attract the hawk, but it also attracts the owl. It attracts everything you can imagine, the coyote, the badger, the fox, everything. And it's not uncommon for one predator to have its sights on the prey and then another predator to swoop in and challenge it or to take it out from under it. This could be what was happening. These girls were like taquitos to this Bigfoot. And the Dogman said, "Oh, I'm hungry. I like some taquitos."
Like sardines in a tin can.
Mm-hmm. By the grace of God, it didn't yank the door open. Why do you think that is? Well, Brittany says when we began to pray and pray in earnest, when we saw this, when three of the girls saw this creature standing there, she's like, we all prayed and we prayed, God, please. And she's like, and one of the girls says, I plead the blood of Jesus. And another one says, I rebuke this in the name of Christ. I rebuke you, you demons, whatever. Is that what happened? Is that what caused it to flee? Well, something did. Something made it flee. Something made it leave. And then it got accosted in the woods right there by the other one. And maybe he was coming back. I don't know. Maybe it was a different one that came. The descriptions that she gave, Erica, says that one of them was grayish looking with some brown, kind of like the markings of a timber wolf. The other girls that saw it agreed that that's what it looked like. And the Bigfoot-like creature was a dark, dark brown. It was very shaggy and humongous and built very big, large, muscular. Didn't see any fangs or teeth, anything like that. Ape-like face, humanoid, big brow ridge. The middle of the face was gray, or I think they said beige, actually. But there was no fur in that middle part of the face like you do see sometimes. They'll have fur all over their face. And the other thing was clearly a Dogman, backward bent, the hawk-like legs, hunched over, but big, and muscular arms, and built like a werewolf with a crazy-looking snout and demonic-looking yellow eyes. They didn't really give me a description of the eyes of the Bigfoot. They said it was like humanoid-looking, ape and human-looking. That's all they could really say. And who knows? Because in my opinion, the way that this went down, either one of these creatures could have tried to make a snack out of them. Here's another story right here that goes along with this, okay? And we were talking about her boyfriend. I don't know exactly what it was that Blake and Ian, so Ian's his brother, what they saw when they were actually going to meet their other brother, Bobby, who's already out there camping. And get this dude and his friend, William, had actually already seen a Bigfoot. They saw one. And they decided to stay. So get this. They call Blake, right? And they said, hey, what are you doing? He goes, I'm over here with Ian. We're on a motorcycle, dirt bike. He says, well, stop what you're doing and come out. And we've seen a Bigfoot out here. Maybe your girlfriend's not as crazy as everybody thinks she is. He's like, well, I personally, here's the conversation here. I personally don't think she's standing right there. I don't think she's crazy. I think that she's a wonderful, voluptuous woman. And she had a terrifying ordeal that probably could have been prevented by her own stupidity. Anyway, next thing you know, they're at the funeral. He's laying there, you know. In the arms of an angel. She's like Erica Kirk now. Looking around. Oh. She's like, no, Mom, you die. I'm taking over. I'm taking all your. I'm like, I'm so sad. I'm kidding, Brittany. You wouldn't be that way, would you? I don't know. You did lie about the keys. Shame on you. Shame, shame. But here's the thing. When this went down, Blake says, look, I know it wasn't the most sound decision. I've made some bad decisions. His girlfriend's in the background. You damn right. He's like, well, I married you, didn't I? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. And I hear something being thrown at him. And she's like, it's just a pillow. He's like, no, it was a lamp. I'm just kidding. I don't know. She threw something at him and they kind of talked, and then the dog started barking and they were playing around. I want to assume that they're playing around. And Blake was like, okay, I'm going to go outside. He goes, look, it wasn't the best decision in the world. Not the most important, not the most smartest thing I've ever done before. But I told my little brother, let's go. So we grabbed some fishing tackle because I figured, and he goes, and I'll be honest, out of earshot of his wife, he goes, I didn't believe none of that shit. She did not believe. When she told me that story, I said, these women were hysterical. And they saw some kind of homeless bum that was hairy and probably out there smoking dope, and he was rummaging through the trash, and they all just got hysterical, and they made each other flip out and believe a bunch of wacky, stupid stuff. And knowing how women are and how they're prone to hysterics, this transatlantic man was like, you're right. You're totally correct, sir. The testosterone coming out of your voice, I can tell that it reeks of truth. Sometimes they have to be hit with the pimp hand of destiny to bring them back into this reality.
Yeah, you see? I would never believe
You
it. till
see?
You said it
Yeah,
that way.
I will never believe you. Never, never. The estrogen that you're spewing from yourself just makes you hysterical.
These
crazy.
dames almost fooled me.
Histrionics can only be cured by massive amounts of thetans. We're taking you to the Church of Scientology. They're like, these thetans are off the chart. It's going to require surgery. We're going to take off their pinky toes. Darn it. Well, it's better you than me, babe, eh? I'm kidding. If that was the case, no woman would have pinky toes. They'd all have. So the women in the chat are like, what is going on here? Are we the next target?
I don't need to hear this.
I
The
don't
world
need
was
to hear this
perfect. That's
crap.
how it'd be, you see?
I'm tuning out.
I'm tuning out. You know, but women don't tune out like that. They'll turn it off and they'll lay there for a minute. I don't need PRT. Let me go. You know what? Let me put some Noxzema on my face feels rough. I don't need PRT. Why do I don't need Josh Turner in my life. I do not. Okay, I got to listen. What is going on here? I'm only going to listen for a little bit because I'm mad. I am mad. I'm mad, dear. And their husband's looking at their phone. They're like, that's nice. You'll be listening in 10 minutes. Okay. Oh, well, I already am, but I'm fixing to turn it back off. You'll turn it back on in 10 minutes, dear. It's okay. We know. This is what happens. This is how you are.
I'm done with Josh Turner.
I'm done.
Again, dear.
He's broke my heart one too many times.
This is another one of your little moods.
You're hysterical, see? They turn it off. They tune back on. I'm still going. You're hysterical.
Yeah.
I'm joking,
I'm only
ladies.
listening to see how wrong he is.
I'm listening to critique him. I'm going to send him a scathing email like those other people that hate him.
I'm hate watching.
I'm hating it. You know, it's what we do. It's what we do. So this is how we do it here at PRT. You know, we get you upset, you know, and whatever, and you'll give me the hate views, and then you'll go to work and be like, look at this man, this chauvinistic pig, and they're like listening, and they're like, yeah, I really like what he's saying. I hate him though. I definitely hate him. Turn it off, Linda. Then when she goes to the bathroom, I don't know what happened to this Dogman. So what is this again? Looking around. Come back. Change the channel. Country music. Come on, country music. Country music. Josh Groban, come on. Not Josh Turner. That's the other Josh Turner. Long black train. Long black train. Us girls got to stick together, huh? On the way home, they're like listening. I know how you do. You know how we do. You know how you do. It's how we do. It's okay. We forgive you. So what happens? She's just like, I was not in hysterics. Yeah, I might have lied. I was, she comes Oliver North. When American lives are in danger. That's why we did it. That's why I hid the keys. I lied. I was protecting their psyches, their fragile psyches. Like Easter eggs, they could crack. So he goes outside and he tells me, he says, look, man, I didn't, but he goes, my brother, Bobby, he's a prankster. He loves to prank people. He goes, so me and my brother Ian were like, you know what? Let's get him, dude. Let's get him. Let's take a ghillie suit and then let's jump out and scare him. And then Ian says, no, because they have guns and they will shoot us. And he says, oh, that's a bad idea. Yeah, Ian, we're not doing that, Ian. Why did you even think of that? That's crazy. So he says, no, we thought about it. We thought, but then we thought, we're going to catch him pranking us. He's probably got one of our other friends out there. Because who calls your brother and says, hey, guess what? Your wife wasn't crazy. We're about 5 miles from where she had her encounter with those creatures, and we saw one. And we're staying here. So get this. This is kind of funny. Right? It's not a real long encounter, but it's funny. So this is what Blake says. Blake says, I drive out there. He says, and we're talking all this crap. Me and my little brother Ian were like, dude, Bobby's I'm going to get him, dude. I'm so sick of this dude, man. He's like, Bobby's like 6 years older than Ian, and he's 5 years older than me. So me and Ian are very close in age, and he's older than us. And in between that is our sister Rachel, and she's just as bad. So we're just talking about how we're going to get this dude. We know that this is one of our friends because he's not answering his phone. So he's with him. He's with him, and the other guy's our friend. He's with him too. And so we're gonna, you know what? We're gonna scare him. We're gonna do something. We're gonna figure it out, or we're gonna act like we're gonna shoot the friend in the suit. Right? That's what we're gonna do. Either way, a lesson will be learned. While they're talking, they slam on the brakes, and then they like swerve, and they almost hit a tree. And Ian's looking at me, according to Blake, and I'm like looking at the road, trying to navigate what just happened. And he goes, I nearly hit something. I said, let me guess. It was bipedal and hairy. He said, yes, it was. And it looked like a freaking wolf on 2 legs. And it was large and ugly. And it had something in its hand that looked like a dead rabbit or fox or something. And he's like, and I just looked for a split second, and it got on all fours and leapt into the woods. And we were like, got our truck under control, came up on 2 wheels there, stopped in the middle of the road. And we were like, whoa, what was that? On this, back road, dense forest of Mississippi. And my brother's like, I don't know what the hell that shit was, but we need to get out of here. He's like, the hair was standing up. We drove to our brother's campsite, and we jump out, and we're like, dude, my brother's telling us his encounter. I'm trying to tell him my encounter. I'm like, dude, we just saw this wolf thing, and they're like, we just saw this creature. It looked like an ape, and we're talking back and forth, and we're going back and forth. And then, okay, Bobby's like, okay, what, one at a time here. And his friend, mediates. And the next thing you know, they're comparing stories, and they're like, let's get out of here. He's like, and we never went back to that part of the woods in the Dodto National Forest. Never, ever again. None of us. Blake was like, I nearly ran into a creature that should not exist. He's like, I couldn't get home fast enough to kiss my wife and tell her, I'm sorry for doubting you. I'm sorry for making fun of you. And I teased you and your friends. And I did it, for like a month and a half. I was just an ass. I didn't believe it. He's like, I was living in this area for a long time, never had anything like this happen. He's like, but then our cousin had something happen that was right there on the edge of town, of a large city, Vicksburg. Not a large, but it's a city. And my cousin calls me one day. He says, you guys, 2 years later, he says, this was 2020. He goes, you know how you guys had that? He goes, we were driving. He goes, and we see this creature running into a field. It looked like a Bigfoot. He's like, this is my cousin. My dad's, our dads are first cousins. This is my third cousin. And he tells me, he says, dude, I grew up with this guy. And he's like, I'm telling you, it's real. I saw it. He's like, if you hadn't come forward and talked about what you saw at Christmas time, at the Christmas dinner, he goes, I don't think I would have said anything. And how many people do that? They don't talk about these things. They just don't. It's like they just try to, put it out of their mind.
They just want to move on.
They just want to move on from it.
But you can't really blame them. But it is what it is. It's still there.
And remember this. Hold on one second. Remember this. One of the things that you have to know is that these people could give a crap about the Patterson-Gimlin film and whether it's real or whether it's not. They, like me, have seen something that should not exist. They have seen things that defy what we are taught. They are creatures that go by names like Dogman, werewolves, Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Who knows what they are and what they really are? And the average American could give a crap whether Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin faked a Bigfoot sighting, because to them, it's irrelevant, because to the thousands and thousands and thousands of people who've seen Dogman, Bigfoot, Goatman, Mothman, they don't care that this film is real or not, because what they saw tells you. I saw a Dogman. I didn't see a Bigfoot. I was with my wife and I saw something. She saw it clear, a lot clearer than me. But I can tell you this, for all of those thousands of witnesses who've encountered the paranormal, and cryptids really are paranormal. They just don't want to admit. They want to call these different names, and they want all of this compartmentalization, which is the enemy. It's the enemy trying to divide us. These people don't care whether or not you or I or whoever, they don't care anything about whether we believe in Bigfoot or Dogman. They don't really care at the end of the day, because they know what they saw. You know how many people I've interviewed, and some of them will start off kind of defensive. And Anthony, you and Tony have witnessed this before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tony has, put me on the spot many times with his bad cataloging.
It's unique cataloging. It
Well,
gives you a challenge, which makes you understand what when you find what
Keeps
you're
you
looking
sharp,
for.
right?
It keeps you focused,
Yeah.
head in the game.
Yeah. So he's doing you a favor.
And
Right.
really, the story isn't what matters.
He's
The
thought that
journey to
far ahead,
finding the story.
what is it?
Yeah,
the journey is really
the journey is it's about the journey or whatever.
yeah.
It's not the destination.
You believe that?
Wasn't that the end of a Stephen King book?
Yes.
Like he just didn't even
Waste
finish
your
it.
time with that guy.
Just like, well, the real story is the journey, not the destination.
Let's just admit it, Mr. King. You couldn't figure out how to
Oh.
end your story.
Oh, I just
Yeah.
read 800 pages of this series and not even end.
What was it called? The
Like the,
gun tower or the gunslinger? Whatever?
Like, yeah,
Dark Tower or something.
like
the
the Game
Dark
of Thrones guy. He still hasn't finished the books, I think, right?
What?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
That's why.
Hasn't he?
George R. Martin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he still like hasn't even written the last one.
That's why it's so bad.
Or maybe
the
he
show.
has, and he's just like milking it for all it's worth. And then once the money dries up, then he's gonna be like, okay, let me release the end to this series. Smart though.
It's because they have great ideas, but no idea how to end it.
Well,
Yeah. Yes, he never finished.
I didn't even know that. I wasn't even aware.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the few fictions that I did read. And I finished him. And I thought I figured by now he probably already came out with,
Nah.
because they went ahead with the show without having the ending.
Yeah.
So the producers just made up their own ending, which I thought was awful, but whatever. So on these encounters here, these people, like I said, they don't really care whether or not you believe in the Patterson Gimlin film. I'm pretty sure that if I went back and talked to every single person I've ever talked to about this stuff, 90% of them would probably tell me that they don't give a crap because they know what they saw. In fact, my dear friend and colleague, Linda Goffey, wrote a book called I Know What I Saw. And it's really just based on people knowing what they saw. They don't care. But that's it. I mean, anybody got any questions for us before we bounce out of here? Bran becomes king. Who's Bran?
That's the one that got through and thrown out of a window, couldn't walk. The kid, the youngest one, the start.
Oh, he becomes the king.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
And then the Night King was just like a useless character.
Died in one
He didn't
episode.
do anything the whole show. He just like stood like this and that was it. And then he gets stabbed by the little cat-faced 10-year-old girl who he didn't see coming somehow, some
He's
way.
the
for
terror
some
of the
reason.
world, but didn't make it past Winterfell.
It's pretty that whole story. Little cat face. But Churro says, what about the giant lizards of Arizona? Well, Churro, what about them? We didn't really get into that. And Celtic Angel says, is Trump a lizard? I don't know. Is he? But Davy Jones has a question here. You think any of those ladies will go glamping? He says camping.
I doubt it.
Again, probably not. Brittany says she hasn't and doesn't want to and won't. But oh, that's right. Bran did become king, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's such a bad ending. I just didn't.
It's
even,
not worth remembering.
Yeah. Takayasha, Night King killed by woke toothpick girl power. And before you get all offended, Takayasha is a female. Okay, she's been on the show. So, yeah, Dee Dee says there's a bunch of sightings in Ohio recently. Yeah, I heard that. And some UFO flap going on there. Yeah, I appreciate everybody who donated, everybody who pitched in and who helps out with the show. I get it. The times are tough. But everybody who helps and joins in, we greatly appreciate it. And if you have stories or you want them to be told on the show, or you want to come on the show and tell them yourself, because you can do that too. We do that all the time. Every Monday, remember, people can come on and we can, you can tell your encounter, or and we have guests every Friday and they tell their stories and whatever. Send your personal and paranormal experiences to Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com. And yeah, do that. This is a good question. Takayashi's question about the story where there's cemeteries near the encounter. Wonder why the werewolf was out there. I don't know if it was a werewolf. Everybody says they're a dogman. I don't know. But Mississippi does seem to have a history of creatures like this. But if you want to hear the prelude to this, you can go and listen to it on the Patreon where we talk about this. And then we talk about how we were going to do that encounter. And once I got the information and stuff.
This experience is objectively traumatic, though, to me, because if you think about it, the only reason, in my opinion, the only reason that they're even still alive to tell the tale is because something else came along to fight with this Bigfoot, not to save them, but to argue over like who gets dibs on that prey.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like you're on the menu, and the only reason that you're alive to tell the tale is because something else came along and decided, well, I want to eat them. We can't both have this. And
what
then,
do you think that happened? Why it happened that way?
Because these things are opportunistic. I mean, like predators are opportunistic. Like whenever one predator makes a kill, like anything else like any other predator in the area, like their ears are going to perk up. They're going to be like, oh, he's fixing to kill this prey, so he's fixing to eat, but I'm going to eat too. So, like it works that way. I think with any living thing, like when opportunities present themselves to further your survival, you take them. It's just like instinct.
One of the things I got to say too, Takayashi says this. Probably one of the most traumatic encounters I've heard you guys covered, trapped in multiple RV. We're trying to get to you. Takayasha, you've only been with us for about a year. We have covered some real doozies. And we've even gone back and had the people come on and retell it themselves in their own words. Some of these encounters that people have are crazy. That is actually a pretty tough one, but I don't think it was the toughest. I think it maybe is in the top 10. Um, recently, there was a guy whose story I covered on Dogman Encounters. He was from Michigan, and his stepdad was really cruel to him. I remember his story very clearly, very vividly. And I know Scorpion, you probably remember it because you were in the room when we and Scorpion were both kind of talking to this kid at the same time. So I don't know if Scorpion's in the chat. Oh, there he is. And so we were talking to this kid, and he was talking. I felt really horrible for him. His stepdad was mean to him, and he would lock him out of the house. And so, like, if he was like 1 minute late coming home, and this kid had a job too. So if he came home from his fast food job, like, a little bit late, his dad would lock him out. So he would walk to his friend's house. He goes to his friend's house because his parents were cool, whatever, but they were asleep, so he didn't want to bother them. There was a broken down car, right? So he goes and gets into that car. And this creature comes out after him and starts trying to get into that car. And it went through the back window, which was already broken a little bit. So this thing pushed it in, but it got stuck, thank God, because it was an old car, and the back window wasn't as big and tall, and it was at an angle, That story was horrific. I mean, that's a terrifying encounter. So as fate would have it, about 2 months ago, I guess this was back in January. Well, I guess longer than that now. It was toward the beginning of January, maybe 2.5 months now, I guess. God, time is just flying. But I was in a group, and I saw him on there commenting about somebody else's encounter in one of the Dogman groups. And I can't remember if it was believable evidence or there's bunches of them. But anyway, he said something, and I recognized his name. I said, "Hey, dude, what's up, man?" Because I hadn't seen him, and I hadn't even thought about him on Facebook or anything like that, and hadn't talked to him in forever. So that guy, I did his story on Dogman Encounters, but he had 3 other subsequent encounters with something. One of these things did him like a Freddy Krueger, because what happened was he was dreaming about it, and this was the most recent encounter happened like 10 years ago. I mean, 10 years after that, and that was when he got his life right with Christ, and he stopped it. He put a stop to it. But this thing tried to like take him out of his dream world, and when he woke up, there was just a pair of arms, like these hairy arms, pulling him off of his bed. And this was witnessed by his girlfriend. She wasn't in the bed. She was actually, it was broad daylight, and she was coming out of the bathroom. She's like, "Whoa, like what the hell?" He looked down, he saw arms. She didn't see anything. It was just like something was pulling him. He was sliding off the bed. And that's when she finally convinced him that Christ was the way. That's pretty damn traumatic. But I don't remember like something had happened before that to him and his friend. I think if you go back and listen to this, I don't know. But the subsequent attacks, and I say attacks because this is what they were of more of a spiritual nature. But this thing manifested as a physical creature. And then it tried to mess with his kid, with his 3-year-old son. And he was like, And his wife's like, "You need to do something. You make a decision. Give your life to God." And he's like, "Well, how's that going to, whatever." It did work. It did help. So yeah, he was traumatized by this. He doesn't actually like to talk about it because he's one of those, his wife has got him, maybe she's right, maybe she's not. I don't know. Maybe it's a matter of an opinion, but she believes that, talking about it could just make it worse, But I told him, I said, talking about it can be very cathartic. It can be very freeing, But I'm trying to talk to him. I'm going to try and get his stories. And that encounter to me was like, that is terrifying. And I got to say, the guy from Germany with his story in the cabin, that was pretty scary too. He told that story on the show. There have been some stories, man. The guy who had the doggy door, where the thing got stuck in the doggy door and was tearing the door off to try to get into his house. I mean, dude, there are a lot of these horrific encounters. And Takayasha, I'm not picking at you at all. We've recorded with you. I think you're a great person. But I think that, there are so many of these encounters. that people have either told or we've told or they've been on shows and have told them. I think Joe Barger's encounter where he shot the thing in the eye. He came on our show and talked about it. That one is horrific. I can't even tell you. Or Brad's encounter with that bear-like creature. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say, you know. But I don't know. This story is terrifying too. But what about Clint? You remember Clint? Clint from Canada. He was up in the big machine, up in the big, what do you call it, with the big tires? I forgot what they call it. The thing that knocks down trees. He was a logger. We redid his story on this show. Clint was Dogman Encounters, but I told his encounter on this show. Do y'all remember that Clint's story? The thing climbed up onto the vehicle and was trying to push the window down.
Oh yeah.
And dude, he was up in there, and there were two guys in the crawler, and the rock crawler behind him. But they finally woke up. He couldn't get them to wake up. He didn't have a gun. He had a flare gun. And they eventually got up and they shot at it and they got it off of that thing. I forgot what it's called. But anyway, they had this. I mean, that's terrifying. These are terrifying encounters. I mean, and dude, I don't know. When I listen to people talk about the things that come into their bedrooms at night or things that they encounter, like what happened to us at the Church of the Forgotten. Horrific, horrible encounters. It's hard, man. I don't know, Takayashi. I don't know what, I can't tell you which ones would be the most terrifying.
For me personally, I think the one that's most terrifying is the vampires in Mexico. The situation that guy was just in, was just absolutely horrible to be in that position. So I think that one would give me the most kind of creeps. There's also that woman who went to the party and, she was like led into the back by these dudes.
Oh,
that was horrible.
Oh, that was a pre-record. That was a pre-record. Her name was what was that girl's name? She was a goth chick from San Antonio.
She just went to like a vampire party.
Yeah, vampire party.
That's
and you know
horrendous.
what? I had people mocking me about that until all this stuff came out on the E-file. And I was like, yeah, because they drink blood. Those beings were not even from here. They were like some interdimensional vampires. And they were like they told her something. Yeah, they're like, we're not local. Yeah. We're not from here. They're demons from another plane from another place. Yeah, like intergalactic demons or something. Man, what was that girl's name? Oh my gosh. You know what? I don't even want to say it because I know it, but I don't know if I used her real name on there or not. Your mic is off, dude.
Yeah, he turned it on.
Okay. Was it off the whole time?
Not the whole time, but he turned it off at some point.
Yeah, dude. Dude, there's so many, but you know what, Takayashi, you have a good idea there. She says, I would love an episode of top 10 themed compilations of stories and linking to older. Yeah, it'd be really cool commentary. That's a good idea. And before that, Nelly made a comment here and I wanted to post. There it is right here. She said, there's no other feeling like when you have an encounter with one of these cryptids, a confusion, your brain trying to understand, and the realization of what it is the fear. And let me say something before we go. Let's not forget how I met my wife. My wife actually reached out to me when I was working on that other podcast or YouTube channel, whatever. Wasn't my channel, but yeah, that's how I met my wife. She talks to me on Valentine's Day. I interviewed her, both of us, talking, and then we ended up talking for hours. And lucky for me, she didn't tell me, hey, man, you're bothering me. She kept talking to me, and we became friends. The next thing you know, over the course of a few months, and she came to visit, and now we're married. The crazy thing is that, she was just a witness. She was somebody who was telling me her terrifying encounter of a dogman or whatever it was, a werewolf-looking thing that came into the room with her and her sister when they were just children, and they found a planchette. Now, I'm not saying that that's what caused it, but that could be what caused it, because these people, they open up the doors to these things, and people will say, well, I don't really know if I believe that, these things are, this is what but what about the Raphaim? They're like the Nephilim that have died, right? Interesting. I was talking to some people today about the Book of Enoch and about, the Epic of Gilgamesh. You remember him? Hillary was trying to find his tomb in the emails. Here's the thing. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, the best you could hope for when you die was to become a shade and basically eat ash. That's not a good deal.
It's pretty grim.
Pretty grim. But Jesus came and restored everything in our favor. All you got to do is take it. Just grab it. Just take it. But people don't want to do that. They don't want to take it. They want to just be like, and to their own detriment. And they want to fight each other and not pay attention to what's going on behind them. It reminds me of the two walrus, the elephant seals, the two elephant seals, not walruses. I said walruses. They were elephant seals on the coast of Argentina. And they were fighting. And one of them thinks he's won because the other one retreats. And then a killer whale beaches itself and grabs him. It's horrific. That is life right there. And that orca is that opportunistic hunter just waiting for its opportunity. So while you're busy fighting one another and typing out all kinds of horrible messages to one another to prove each other wrong on Facebook, remember the enemy is lurking. He's always right there.
Yeah, remember that when you get real mad arguing about something like the Patterson Gimlin film, which is a hot topic right now, but like, just know that like the person you're fighting with, you're those two seals, and that orca is just waiting. So pick your battles. Life is real short, and don't lose sight of the big picture because of some nothing burger petty argument that really doesn't even matter.
Yeah, it's a big nothing burger. Anyways, folks, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for making PRT what it is. You, the audience. Yeah, we've lost some people. Some of our enemies have gloated about how we don't have 500-600 people in the chat every episode. We're down to 350 to 400 or whatever. And somebody sent me a little snarky message, and they were like, well, that's what happens when you, and I'm like, that's what happens when I'm what? When what? What did I do wrong? I stood up for my faith. I stood up for my beliefs. I did nothing wrong. You're the one that has the problem. And obviously you're still watching because you're all talking about it. So I don't go stalking, looking for you. But yeah, these people they just can't be happy enough that things are the way they are for us. Well, things are the way they are until they're not. Right? I stand on that. I stand on my faith. I stand on what I've said before. I'm not backing down, and I'm not going to go and crawfish and try to be more politically correct so that I can please the masses. I want quality over quantity. I want that. I want people who are going to pay attention and listen and learn. Because sometimes you just got to leave. Like Jesus says, dust your feet off and go to the next town. I don't have time for it. That's it. All right, guys. We love you. We'll see you. Good night.
Yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, a good shepherd is he, the one that guides me. Though in darkness I find myself alone, I lack nothing, for my God above me his throne. All his love he has shown. Though in darkness I walk alone, in a world so cold, this is my life above me his throne. A silent storm of chaos follows close behind, but in him comfort I find. I I find. Still waters flow gently, reminding me in him I find safety. Though in darkness I walk alone, in a world so cold, this is my life above me, his throne. I don't walk alone no matter where I go, on the highest mountain or the back alleyways. The Lord with me, he stays. He restores my soul, renewed, unbroken, his righteousness spoken. Though in darkness I walk alone, in a world so cold, this is my life above me, his throne. Guidance, protection, this is his love's reflection, guarding me from the opposition. The Lord's feet show me a righteous direction. Though in darkness I walk alone, in a world so cold, this is my life above me, his throne. Overflowing blessings, anointed with oil, the Lord protects my soul from eternal turmoil. My cup overflows, his mercy he shows, abundance he sows. Though in darkness I walk alone, in a world so cold, this is my life above me, his throne. I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever, no matter where. For the Lord's goodness and mercy are in me, a faithful love entire